e dispositivi
I suggest that we go now in the reverse
Quindi direi
alphabetical order. We would
adesso
start
di invertire l'ordine alfabetico
Jeff
e di iniziare
giving
con
us a
Jeffrey
short
Zweig,
presentation and then
che ci
go
parlerà
through by the
brevemente
presentations and leave ample
dell'argomento, e poi
time
andiamo
for
avanti
discussion.
con le presentazioni e poi avremo tempo per una discussione.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Well, when Hans invited me to be on this panel, I
Grazie
thought
per
about it a
avermi
little bit
invitato a far
and
parte di questo
decided
panel.
that there are some very interesting language processing challenges in
Ci
voice
sono
search. And this talk is meant to expose several of those. Hopefully it'll spark some interest from the other panelists and the audience. And maybe we can have some discussion of
Spero
these
che
issues.
il mio intervento sia utile e proficuo per una discussione futura.
So the key points
Gli elementi
that I'd like to
principali
make
che vorrei,
are,
sui quali
first
vorrei
of all, that I
soffermarmi
think the current systems
sono in
that you
particolare
see
i
out there
sistemi
in terms of
attuali
voice search are very plain vanilla.
che sono,
you might even say
come
sort of
io
boring.
dico, plain
You
vanilla.
call, for
Solo-
example, a toll-free number, or you turn on a cell phone application like the kind that I showed yesterday, and you can say, well, give me the phone number of Domino's Pizza. But
servono
that's about
per
it.
chiedere informazioni su
And I think that in order to
numeri
go
telefonici.
into more complex domains and do more
Quindi si tratta di
interesting
operazioni
things,
semplici.
we're going to
Se
have to use
vogliamo-
language processing in some
Se
fairly
vogliamo fare di
sophisticated
più
ways in
con la
order to try
lingua,
to
forse
get at
è
interesting pieces of
necessario
information. There's
sviluppare
three
sistemi di
different
trattamento del
areas that
linguaggio
I'm going to
naturale
highlight here, which I think
più complessi.
where I think that's going to be the case.
Ci sono
I think these are important areas.
vari settori
The
sui
first
quali
one
vorrei concentrare in
is
particolare. Il primo,
summarization, and I think we're going to need to use
email
summarization
summarization.
for voice search because
O la
when you communicate
summarization in
either over the
generale.
phone or on a cell phone,
Perché
time and or space are at a premium. If it's on the phone, you don't want to listen
Perché chiaramente a
for
seconda
example,
anche delle
long-winded
piattaforme
reviews or
che
discussions that
vengono
people may have left on
utilizzate
your system.
per la
You need
conversazione, hai
information quickly. You want to
bisogno
get stuff done
di
quickly.
informazione
And if it's on a cell
velocemente a
phone,
partire da
you
ogni
don't want to
tipo
look
di
at gobs and gobs
strumento.
of text. You want the gist of what's important, and it has to be compressed.
Poi anche altre componenti, non
So I
solo
think
quelle
summarization is
verbali,
going to be
devono
key, for
essere
example, in presenting restaurant or product
elaborate.
reviews or email summarization. Second place where I think that NLP can help is
Un
in
altro
terms
settore in
of
cui il
building
trattamento del
two-way
linguaggio naturale potrebbe
systems
essere
where we have
importante
community input,
è il settore
where
del
you
community
want people,
input,
say, to call and
cioè
be
quando
able
ci sono persone
to
che
leave
forniscono
information
informazioni
about some experiences that they've had for other
a
people then
proposito
to
di
call
esperienze
and
che hanno
access,
avuto, a proposito di
call and
storie,
leave,
a proposito di
ratings of the hotels that they've say just stayed at in Rome so that later on somebody else
a
can
proposito
call
per esempio di una
and,
conferenza
get
che
that
hanno fatto a
information if
Roma
they're
e quindi la
thinking
vogliono
about going into a
raccontare.
particular hotel. But you have to be careful because when you open up a system
Quando
to general
si
community input,
apre
you can get a lot of
sistema,
sort of surprising results, and you don't
i
necessarily want to
risultati
make all the
possono essere
information that
sorprendenti,
people
non
leave
quelli che
generally
ci
available.
aspettavamo.
And so you need some way of moderating that content. And I think language processing can give
E
us that way.
forse l'NLP potrebbe essere
The last area
importante
that I want to
per risolvere
mention
questi tipi di
is the
problemi.
idea of being able to
L'ultimo
navigate
settore è
around
quello della possibilità di
information better
navigare
by understanding and conceptualizing and presenting what's in that
comprendendo
information.
meglio
I'll
le
have an
informazioni,
overhead
comprendendo meglio
later that
le
gets at that a little
complessità
bit
di un
more
qualsiasi tipo di
concretely.
testo.
So what I'm going to do now is just go through several different application scenarios
Adesso vedremo
that
alcune
illustrate these different
applicazioni
points
che si
and try to indicate that
occupano di
these
questi,
also
che
indicate
ricadono
some
in questi
solutions
tre
to these
settori.
challenges, some ways to go
Presenterò le
to
sfide, cercherò di
try to
mostrarvi
convince
anche
people
le
that these aren't just
soluzioni o di
challenges that need
ipotizzare
to be done but can't be done,
soluzioni
but
future.
where it's fairly straightforward to take some concrete steps. So in terms of summarization, I'd like to
Quanto
bring
riguarda la
up
summarization,
the voice rate application that I mentioned yesterday, which lets you
abbiamo gli
call and
strumenti che
get
abbiamo visto ieri.
reviews of products and businesses. I'd like to play the demo of it. It didn't work yesterday because
Vorrei
of
farvi
the
vedere
audio problems.
la demo
They say that
di ieri, che
stupidity
non
is
abbiamo
doing the same
potuto
thing over and over
farvi
again
vedere per
and
problemi
hoping for a
tecnici.
different result. So I'm not going to attempt I'm not going to
Adesso
attempt the
quindi
regular old audio. I'm
cercherò
going to try a
di
lower tech solution here.
farvi vedere la demo sperando che funzioni.
Welcome to Voice Rate. Would you like to get a rating or leave a rating?
Get a rating.
You want a rating for a local business, a national business, or a product?
Local business.
What city and state?
Seattle, Washington.
Which business?
Alki Homestead.
I think you said Alki Homestead. Is that correct?
Yes.
This is rated 4.5 out of 5. Here are some of the things people had to say about this restaurant. Positive comments. Nice fluffy biscuits and great service. It is a must for me to have dinner at the Alki Homestead. My favorite dishes are the broiled salmon or the prawn rib as a runner-up. I never have been disappointed. Negative comments. I had never in my life had such rude service. The baked potatoes were either overcooked or undercooked. Crappy service. Thank you for using Voice Rate.
Okay, so that was an example where summarization was necessary in order to find those snippets of, they were originally text from web reviews out of huge masses of information out there, pull those out and then make those available as positive and negative comments to sort of quickly give you the gist of what's going on,
da poter
or what people
avere
have to say
accesso al
about the
contenuto in maniera rapida.
Just a word about how it works is sort of interesting. Basically, we trained a maximum entropy classifier to predict the numerical ratings that appear with the review from the text in the review. The features that were used in that maximum classifier were n-gram features, the presence of various words and bigrams, and as a result of it, each n-gram ends up with a weight that tells you how predictive that n-gram is of the overall numerical rating
sarebbe troppo difficile da
and then if you
comprendere.
look for little snippets or pieces
Quindi
of
l'idea è
text
quello di avere
that
pezzi
have a
di
high
testo
n-gram weight, that have high predictive
che
ability to predict
tramite n-grammi
the rating, those are good things it turns
permettere
out
di
to
esprimere opinioni facili da
examples of n-grams
comprendere.
that are highly weighted are things like
Esempi di
worst
n-grammi
pizzas, and I
sono
had some of the
quelli che
worst
abbiamo
pizza I've ever seen
visto
outside a microwave box, or
su come si
courteous as
ordina una
in
pizza.
courteous and friendly owners.
Ma ci sono
Okay, so the second area that I want to mention for
viste.
language processing is content moderation in voice search.
Vorrei
And here we
parlarvi
want to
poi
let
anche
people
della content
contribute to a
moderation,
system
cioè
by,
della
say,
moderazione
leaving
del
reviews and then
contenuto.
playing some. But the thing is, and actually Tell Me started doing this, where they have a system, 800-555-TELL. You can call that system and actually leave reviews. And what they found was that the donated reviews are often, some fair percent of the time, like 3% or 5%, inappropriate. They're either off topic, somebody calls up and starts talking about their car, or they're offensive, there's cursing or swearing,
fuori
a
dal
lot of
seminato, nel senso
calls,
che non si occupano,
denigrating
la
immigrants
ricerca
or people's
non
different
porta ai
sexual
risultati
orientations, or
sperati.
making racial slurs, religious slurs. There's a lot of stuff that you get when you
Poi
open
ci
these
sono
systems up.
molti aspetti che riguardano
so
la
we need some
sessualità,
sort of a
le parole
mechanism to
offensive
analyze
nei confronti di immigrati, quindi
and figure out
analizzarli, non so,
when
riportarli
they're on
parola per parola,
topic
non so se sia
and when they're appropriate to play to people. And so we actually took a
averlo.
shot at that
Poi
by
per quanto riguarda
having
la,
a bunch of data manually
creazione di uno
annotated.
scrubber,
What you see
chiaramente,
here is a speech recognition
si tratta di un elemento importante
output
per
from,
la raccolta
well,
di
speech
dati.
recognition. We took one of the reviews, ran it through a speech recognizer,
Abbiamo
and
quindi analizzato
built an
gli
application to rate
organizzatori,
it. So
i
this is
riconoscitori
saying, well, is
vocali.
it complete gibberish? Is the review offensive? Is it informative? Is it entertaining?
Una
And is
maniera
it
per
positive?
eliminare le informazioni
And it turns out that we
inutili
can,
è
we can
porre
actually
delle
learn
domande
to
base e vedere
predict some of these
se
qualities and then use them in selecting
alcuni elementi
what to make
corrispondono a
available.
queste domande, quindi vengono
And for
automaticamente
example,
eliminati.
in this particular
Per quanto
case
riguarda le parole
of data,
offensive,
set of data that we had, if we just look at
se
offensiveness,
guardiamo
we
ai
start out with
dati,
about 2.5% of the reviews being
Ci
offensive.
rendiamo conto
If we
che
exclude repeat offenders, so people
parecchie
who
riviste,
call from the same phone
125 su
number
1000
more than
sono
once,
offensive.
and someone in the community or our program flags it as being offensive,
Poi
and we
ci sono
never
anche dei
take anything
programmi
else
che
from that
sono
phone number again,
offensivi,
that
alcuni
brings it down to a little
numeri
bit under a
telefonici che
percent
vengono
of
chiamati presentano
offensiveness.
un
And then if
alto
we
grado
add
di
the audio
offensività
scrubbing,
nel testo.
the automatic classification method, we end up removing almost all the offensive content.
Quindi siamo però riusciti a eliminare tutte le
The last area that I'd
gli
like to
aspetti
mention
offensivi.
is using language processing for navigation.
Poi
And so
l'ultimo
what we
aspetto di cui
have
avevo parlato
now
prima,
is what
cioè
you
la
see on the left-hand
navigazione,
side of the screen, what I
utilizzare
showed
l'NLP
yesterday.
per la
You
navigazione.
can find information like this
Ci
about a
sono
restaurant.
informazioni
But what would
che
be
si
really
possono
nice is
ottenere
to be able to say
se si vuole andare a cena fuori, per esempio, come
shows the
abbiamo visto
rating there, the
ieri.
4-star rating, and see some of those snippets of things that people have said about this place. Like maybe they say, oh, it's got super pho, nasty waiters, great soup, and get that piece of information quickly. And then the navigation part
La navigazione
comes
potrebbe essere
in terms of looking at what
permessa
people
anche
have
in
said about
termini
the
di
place, and then offering
cosa
to
si dice a
guide
proposito di un
people
posto, quindi non semplicemente
to other
voglio andare da
restaurants or other
questo o a
places,
quest'altro ristorante, ma
in
per esempio
terms of
voglio
what
andare a
people have said
mangiare
about the
un
first
determinato
one.
tipo
So,
di
for
zuppa, un
example, in
determinato
this
tipo di
case,
piatto.
would you
E
rather
quindi,
go to a restaurant? Would you like to go
lo
to a
strumento
restaurant? Would
per
you
la
like to see
navigazione
some
deve essere
restaurants that have
flessibile e
more
riuscire
super
a
pho? Would you like to
fornire
see
informazioni
some
anche a proposito di
restaurants
questi
that have
aspetti che
friendlier waiters?
chiaramente possono
Well, this
capitare.
restaurant had great soup, but would you like to see some, say, restaurants with heavier cuisine? And so what's going on here is you're getting away from just standard labels for navigation, things like, do you want a more expensive restaurant? Do you
E
want
quindi
fancier
siamo
restaurant?
riusciti ad
To
implementare in
navigating
qualche
in
modo
terms
degli strumenti
that are
che permettono
specific
di
to the
andare
entity that you're
oltre
talking
la
about.
superficie
And I think that
e che
being
permettono
able
di
to do that
chiedere
is
anche
going to
informazioni
require a good deal of
più
intelligence and language
complesse
processing
in maniera
order to
tale da
figure
poter
out
interagire con
what is
il sistema.
what have people been saying, and then what are similar relationships that you can offer to other people to guide their navigation. And so that's it. Thank you.
Grazie.